episode number 3.
Welcome to the Teaching Bites podcast, our unprofessional development resource to take your teaching to the next level. Here are your hosts, Fred and Sharon Jaravada.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our third episode. Now, in honor of our third episode, we're going to reference some pop culture here. So the third episode, I always think of the number 3, and my favorite TV show with the number 3 in it is Three's Company.
Come and knock on our door.
Yeah, with Jack Tripper and Mr. Farley. Love those guys. And also, the number 3 is, we all know, is the magic number from Schoolhouse Rock. Definitely one of our favorite shows. And also, number 3 for the sports reference is the Great Bambino, Babe Ruth's Yankee jersey, number 3. All right, Sharon, how you doing?
All right, Fred, how are you? Great.
Well, I've been kind of sick the past week or so I have a cough, and you may hear me sniffling and coughing as we go along, but we'll try to edit that out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Fred, do you ever have a hard time trying to get your students to listen and respond sometimes when you're teaching?
Nope.
Not at all. Okay,
I'm kidding. Of course I do.
Okay.
I actually do. Of course, yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm sure a lot of other teachers have the same problem. So I'm going to go over some ways to help your kids in listening. First way I use is ask 3, then ask me. So the kids, if they don't understand the directions or anything, they have to ask 3 other students and then ask me. It reduces the constant me, Miss Jaravada.
I hate that. Yeah,
and it gets other kids at the same time to, to retell, which is good for them. Another way I love think, pair, share. We all know what that is, but let me explain it to you, how I do it differently. If you have anything to ask kids to respond, you can say think, pair, share. So what I do is they have to think first. And traditionally, a lot of what I used to do is I had them just think and then they share.
So this is individually, right?
No, with a partner.
Oh, so they think together.
They think. They think themselves. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. And what happens in my experience is the kids that normally respond first, they have their idea. They're gonna just say it out, and the other kids kind of quiet. So I felt that was really unfair. I decided I'm changing the way I do it. So what I do now is I have the kids think the response, and when they're ready to respond, they show their partner their thumb up. Then when both thumbs are up, that means both have a response. Then they're ready to share. And I might say the person that woke up the earliest is the person that's going to start. Or I might have them default is Rochambeau, right? Rock, paper, scissors.
That's pretty
They
cool.
could decide, like who goes first.
Right.
But they cannot respond until both thumbs are up. Then they share.
That's a good thing to do so that they can think first before they can before they speak. Because we all know we love to speak before we even think.
Right. And, has the kids formulate an idea. Even if you're done first, your thumb is up, you're waiting for your partner, you need to think about another way to say it, or always thinking, so they're not just doing nothing. So then there's actually a video in the show notes of a teacher doing this. She read a book, and then she had the kids turn and talk. So they physically sit on the rug, and they have to turn to each other. Another way I have them listening is if I explain a concept to the class, I have a student explain it. Or if I'm teaching something, they need to explain it to the class in their own words. So that's checking for understanding. They listen and they understand what the directions are or the concept. Other thing is talking piece. Those of you who are familiar with tribes, The tribes.
So what is tribes?
Tribes is
Or not those people who aren't
right,
familiar with that.
right. So it's a way to create community in your classroom, and it's a book that I've been using since my first year of teaching. And it's just ways to get students to build a community through different kinds of team building activities, whether it's a whole class, small group, or duet. So talking piece is like if you have a group of kids, whether it's, again, whole class or small group, and they have to take turns talking, they designate a talking piece. So in my class, I have a talking heart. It's like a squishy heart. And so I like that because it's, you're talking from your heart. It's really important in my classroom. And
So they're squeezing this little heart,
like a squishy,
plushy, squishy,
right.
Doll or toy, something, right?
Mm-hmm. And the rule is the person that's holding it is only one that gets to speak. The other people have to listen.
Yeah, that's hard. Teaching kids, teaching adults how to be patient, and having patience to listen to the other person and without interrupting them, right?
Yeah, actually, that made me think of something. Do you see in your class when a student is responding and they're talking to about something, and the rest of the class is raising their hand because they want to speak next?
Yeah.
What do you
Actually,
do?
what I do is if I see a lot of hands go up, I'll always go either start left to right, and I will pick the first three, and I'll call them out first. And I would go 1, 2, 3. Then I go back. Number 1, what's your question? Then I will answer number 1's question. Then I'll go on to the second hand that went up. Number 2, answer their question. Number 3, and so on. And then I'll pick the next 3 if I see a lot of hands go up. But if I see that, if a lot of hands do go up, that means I have to re-explain things more. It's just an indicator for me. Maybe what I
very
told
true.
them wasn't clear enough. But usually I would say about 3 questions will come up, and I always call them and number them out loud, and people know who was first, second, and third.
Oh, it's a good idea that you tell them in order, like you're first, second, third, because I think I might forget myself. So yeah, going back, I like that point about numbering them. But what I find is when my kids, they're so excited about responding to something that when one student's talking, the rest have their hand up, and I know that they're just waiting to be called on. I don't honestly not sure if they're actually listening to the person talking. So my rule is that whoever's speaking is the one speaking, and all the other hands are down until that person's done. I tried that this year, and I'm trying to work on it.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard, yeah.
Yeah, because kids want to be heard.
Right.
And
you
I
want to
don't
give them
wanna-
a voice.
Right. But at the same time, I want them to listen, because it's often hard for them to listen to each other.
Well, God gave us 1 mouth, and He gave us 2 ears.
Yes, very
So-
true.
We got to listen more.
All right.
Very cool. So that was a talking piece, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right. So in some strategies that I use, since I'm the educational innovation teacher at my school, obviously I use a lot of technology in my lessons when I can. They have the students have either laptops or iPads. And they have the iPads have covers, and laptops obviously have a lid on them. When I need to get their attention, or another student needs to get their attention, I will ask the class or tell the class to clamshell. It's a word I learned from one of my colleagues. Clamshell, just like how you see you can see a clam can close their mouths. Or the shells, and they don't close them completely some of the time. And that's what we're trying to do with the laptops, to clamshell. And that shows me that when the kids do that, I got their attention. Their hands are not inside the lid and in the laptop, and their eyes are on me. Now with iPads, it's a little tricky because it doesn't clamshell traditionally like a laptop. They have covers on them, the magnetic covers.
Right.
So, but it's okay for iPads. They're great. You can just shut them. But we still use the terminology clamshell because it just works, and we've been using it for the past couple of years, and we're having a lot of success with that. So yeah, try that with your class. Try that. Say clamshell, and let everyone clamshell, and they're not slamming the laptop. That's the thing.
So they're actually closing it completely?
No, they're not, because a few years ago, there were some apps or there were some connectivity issues, Wi-Fi, that if you close the laptops in the middle of work, you'll lose your work. So we adapted it to just part way, maybe leaving about a half-inch open the laptop so that it doesn't disconnect on what they're doing.
And as long as the screen's not displayed, then that's all that matters, right?
Right. So
very true.
The screen is down. I have their attention. They can see me, and their work. They probably didn't save in time when I asked them to clamshell. So it's just another safeguard for not losing their work. But again, with iPads, it's okay most of the time. I haven't run into issues. They can just continue where they left off. So yeah, clamshell. Try that clamshell. And also, we use a lot of headphones when I get their attention. Also, they can hear me. Usually, their volume isn't that high. Or I will use a hand signal, or the kids will tell each other to clamshell, and that includes to take off their earphones, headphones, or earbuds.
Earbuds, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, pretty cool fun fact for everyone. Did you know the headphones came out in 1910 by a guy named Nathaniel Baldwin? He actually made the first headphones in his kitchen, and he sold the headphones to the United States Navy back in 1910.
I thought it'd be made even later than that.
I know, it's pretty crazy. Well, they didn't have the cushy headphones now, like the Beats and the Monster, things like that. But the first stereo headphones came out in 1943, I believe, by a jazz musician, John Cos. And I think we still see his name in headphones, Cos headphones, Koss.
I didn't know that was from him. Wow.
Yeah, that's him.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so another strategy I want to share with you is that when I have the students get ready to do what I ask them to do, just before their action, I always drop a keyword to tell them once I see the keyword, they go ahead and do that. So here's an example. So I gave them directions 1, 2, 3. And then I have their attention because I mentioned that if I said this keyword, in this case I will say go, they go ahead and begin their work.
Yeah. So
I'll give directions, see if I got everyone's eyes, and then I'll drop the word no. And then of course they'll run up and start doing it, but there's always a few students will yell back, "Hey guys, he didn't say that. Mr. J didn't say that. He said no, he didn't say the word." And then they realize that, and they go back to their seats, and they're still. Then they would get their attention back to me, and I would say again, "Ready, set, begin," and then you'll see fewer kids going up. They're realizing it wasn't the word I said. Until then, I would say, "Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, when I say the word go, then you could get up and get started." And then right there and then, they're still hesitant because I was explaining the word, but I used the word in the sentence, and they didn't realize that. But one or two guys will figure it out, and hey, Mr. J did say go.
Right.
And you can see them slowly get up, still hesitant. But then they realize, okay, everyone's okay, and Mr. J isn't getting mad or anything. So I use the keywords to drop for them to do actionable actions with their work.
Yeah, I do the same thing with the word go as well. And I'll play jokes like gorilla and stuff like that. But sometimes the kids, they forget that they have to wait for the go word. They start right away. So just have to, like all teachers, you have to really train them and take the time to make it right before, you get the year going. One idea I just thought of when we talked about listening. Teachers probably know about equity sticks, right? So
What's that?
So you put each student's name on a popsicle stick, and then I put it in a cup.
Okay.
And mine's called Say What?
Say what?
Yeah, so I have a rubber band that divides it in half, and when I have to pick students, I pick it out of my cup. And, for anything to correct something, to answer something, or to share, sometimes I'll pick 2 sticks, call them sticks, the students from this popsicle sticks, and 2 volunteers. I want to give a chance to students that want to volunteer, but of course I want to give also a chance to those who are often not volunteering. And doubly make it even better for the kids that are quiet, the ones that got picked, the sticks, they get to go after the volunteers. That way those students that got picked can have time to formulate their answers and think. Because often the ones that are easy to respond already have their thoughts coming out of their mouth before they're called on. So that's the way I do it, so that I give a chance for everyone to formulate their answers.
That's pretty cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So for some responding ways, again, think, pair, share, of course, is also a responding way. So I also do a think, pair, group share, where after you do a think, pair, share with a pair. So, for example, I have most tables of 4s in my class. Mm-hmm. So if you can imagine a group of 4 students and each pair are doing think, pair, share, right? So after they think, pair, share, then they do a group share.
A group share within that group of 4.
Right.
Okay.
So then they get to share what they've all talked about. And another one I use, I like to vary the different ways kids get to share with each other and like them to move around. I'm all about moving. I don't like kids. Kids shouldn't be sitting too long anyway. Mm-hmm. So I assign partners of the week, and I call that POW.
POWs. All right.
And
partners of the week. We call it POWs, and with our teachers are usually problems of the week.
Right.
Pretty interesting.
Right. Uh-huh. So I use a strategy called Milling to Music, which is actually from the Tribes book.
So what's that?
And what that is you can use any music. I use Spotify because we have the internet, or you can use iTunes. And if you don't, you could also use the radio. Do you have no radio? You can also just clap rhythms.
Or you have a tape deck or a CD
sing,
player.
Yeah, something like that. Doesn't matter.
Now, is there a particular genre you use?
I like upbeat music. So what happens?
Like a Miley Cyrus type of stuff.
Sometimes.
Or Justin Timberlake.
JT. I love my JT.
Not Bieber, but
no,
Timberlake.
JT. Is the only JT.
Yeah, I guess so.
In my life.
Yeah. Sure.
So, Milling to Music, I have them. It's what they do is they stand up, and when they hear the music, they have to walk around or dance around the classroom. And I tell them not to follow their friends. They have to go any different direction.
So they're wandering around.
Meandering. Thank you. And when the music stops, they have to find a partner as fast as possible. And any students that don't have any ways...
As fast as possible, or the closest person as possible?
The closest and as fast as possible.
Okay.
And those that have no partner will have to go to Lost and Found near me. They have to raise their hand, and they have to pair themselves together. And this strategy I use, the POW, is so that I can choose different kinds of activities for them to share, and they can get to know their partner for that week. They have to get up, and I use it for certain activities, not every single thing, because there are times I'm having them share with their seat partner, but sometimes I use the POW too. And they could do it for anything, you know, PE, science partner, anything, just to talk about your weekend. There's many ways, but they get that partner for 2 weeks and they change it up every 2 weeks so they have a new partner.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So I really like that a lot. And sometimes, you know, again, getting to kids to move around, if we're correcting work or answering questions, or if I'm doing some kind of formative assessment or anything, just to get an answer. It's very, very good for me visually to see the responses. So my classroom, you know, of course, everyone has knows cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. And I have my classroom, of course, labeled in those directions. And I might say, okay, excuse me. I might say, okay, do you guys like chocolate ice cream? If you like it, go north. If you don't, go south. So the kids get to move to that part of the room, and it gets them moving. And I will also even go further, and they have to also, I might pick some kids to explain why they feel like that, or they could turn to a partner. Again, think, pair, share. I mean, a lot of different multi-layered kinds of ways to get them to respond.
Right. Next up, we have checking for understanding. One of my favorite strategies that I do with my kids is to use an exit ticket strategy. Is where the kids stand behind their chairs before they go to their next class, or before they go to lunch, or before they leave for the end of the day. I would have a review questions of what we did. Pretty much I would come up with the questions off the cuff, and I would have the kids pack, like at the end of the day, example, they would pack up, get ready, stand behind their chair that's put up on their desk, and once everyone is ready, I would ask a question, and I would wait for one of the students to raise their hand, and they answer it. I pick one, and they answer the question. If he gets it right, then the student is dismissed. If another student tries to answer another question but gets it wrong, then he'll have to stay until someone else can answer it properly. And if I do notice that a question's too hard, then I would drop it down a little bit. If it's too easy, I'll increase the questions, the difficulty of the questions. But then I'll also, when I make questions, I'll also be mindful of the students who are answering it and making sure that they can answer it before they're dismissed. So that's what I just call it the exit ticket or something like that. I don't know what other teachers call it, but I just call it the exit ticket.
Yeah,
but that's one of my favorite ones that I use, and it's pretty effective.
So do you ask a different question to each student?
So I'd ask a general question. So I would ask like 5 questions, and they would raise their hand. They could answer it. Sometimes, if we're running out of time, I will pick a whole. If one student can answer it, his whole table and all his students in his table are dismissed. I do it that way too, so I can adapt. If I'm running out of time, if I had more time, I could slow it down.
Okay, great. So, what do you do when like a kid gets it wrong? Like, do they?
Well, if they get it wrong, then they're not dismissed yet, and I would ask again that same question. If anyone could answer it, then once it's answered correctly, then I will make sure I go back to the student originally and say, "Hey, so that's the part you're missing." And he or she would give me a heads up or be, that nod. Okay, next time I'll get on that.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, you did explain that, but I guess I was wondering, does the kid get embarrassed, or how do you deal with that? How do you create that culture?
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm mindful. I'm making sure I pick students who can answer the question, and if it's too hard, I'm not going to pick that student.
Got
that's
it.
going to struggle with that. And hopefully, before I even ask the question, I recognize which students are having a little trouble with the subject matter that I was just teaching. So,
Okay, that's a great idea. I've also seen it where students have to write as well, like a piece of paper, and then it's like one question for the class, and then the students turn it in as they exit.
right.
So-
You could do that, or even if you have time, you could create a Google form and they could fill out a quick one
yeah.
or two questions on the Google form, and I can see it populate on my computer, so they're ready.
Great. I have another idea or two about also checking for understanding. So after I teach a lesson, I say, how do you feel? Thumbs. How do you feel? Thumbs. So thumbs is like the signal word, and they have to show me 3 different kinds of thumbs. So if they thought this is great, I get it, thumbs up. And they have to show it high in the sky, I'd say high in the sky. And if it was okay, they put a thumb pointing horizontally, I guess, to their left or their right. And if it was really hard, they don't get it, thumbs down. I know that's a way for me to see how they're doing. This could be any time again, in the middle of a lesson, it could be towards a summative, or could be into or anything like that. Another way I do it is if we correct homework, and I want to get a quick check of how they did. There's a score of, for example, 15 questions, and I might say, who got minus 5 or more, right? Then they would stand up, so I could just see, and then I'll go down, who minus 4, and the rest of the kids that stood up for minus 5 or more would sit down.
Okay.
So then I would see who got it, and I might make a math problem, say who got minus 1,000,000 times 0. There was
Right.
0. So that's a way for me to see how they did.
Yeah. So how do you deal with the embarrassment part with that?
That's a good question. I never talked about it. They just have to stand up, but that's something to be mindful of too. I
Right.
think,
And if
to
they're
talk
even
about
telling the
it.
truth, or if they're admitting they are getting it wrong, that much wrong, or
Yeah,
it can
right.
be embarrassing, right, for the
Right.
student.
True.
So
And then I give a chance for kids to ask, like if you don't understand, like, always.
right, I guess you need to have your environment, your classroom, to be very open, very comfortable for all the
Oh,
students.
definitely.
So they can stand up and not be embarrassed.
Right.
And really emphasize that.
Yeah, and I do talk about this is where you are now, and you're going to get there eventually. This is what you know now. And I always talk about how I want your best work, and all you could do is learn from your mistakes, how to improve, and keep up the good work for what you've done well on.
Right. And having the other classmates can help them out, and not, being respectful of
Right,
each other.
definitely. Yeah.
Being a good citizen, being an upstanding citizen, upstanding classmate.
Right, and true. I mean, creating that culture in the first couple months of school is so important, so they feel safe to do that, and the kids support each other. And I'm seeing that in my class right now, helping each other out. So, but a good point to make too. I think I probably should mention that.
Yep. And it's good reminders, as the year over the weeks, also.
All right.
All right.
Well, that is all. Thank you for joining us this episode. Please leave an honest rating and comment for feedback. It'll really help us to make our show a lot better. And please visit our site, teachingbytes.com, to subscribe, and visit and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/teachingbytes. And see you next time.
All right, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Teaching Bytes podcast at www.teachingbytes.com.